Hi, welcome back to Black Vision Network. We're your hosts, Janae.
And I'm Theo.
And on today's episode, we are addressing healthcare.
Yes, so if you have tuned into our channel at all, we did a previous video called Healthcare, What's the Big Deal? Where we address some of the problems that we saw in our upbringing and as we got older of healthcare issues in the Black community. So today we would like to do a follow-up to that video and be solution-based in this video. Talk about things that we as Black Vision Network are doing to improve healthcare in the Black community and things that we suggest, just ideas, brainstorming that we've done that if you would like to help, if you're an ally or somebody who's looking to get more involved, things you can focus on to improve.
Yep. And we always like to start the conversation. This video it's intended to give you more information on ways that you can help and the ways that we think that their community needs help just by experience. So without further ado, let's get into the video.
For sure. So let's start with a quick recap. So coming off that first episode, we basically, I would say, established 4 large main central issues that we felt really we need to work on to change to make a big improvement in healthcare for Black community. So those would be food deserts, distrust of medical professionals, media representation of Black people, and also the lack of healthy eating habits and workout habits. So let's get right into it. Let's start with food deserts.
Yep.
What are some things that we've talked about that we can improve to?
So for those who don't know, a food desert is basically an area where there's no easy access to fresh, wholesome, nutritious foods. So in a lot of the hoods, there'll be a Dollar Tree or gas stations, but there's no fresh produce and groceries. And that just reciprocates the problem of poor health. And it's a way that it's actually systemic racism when you zone out areas where you don't give them access to nutritious foods. Yeah. And what you eat, you really are what you eat. And when you put in crap into your food, it comes out in ways such as depression, anxiety, low energy. And it's really important to pay attention to what you eat.
Yes. So basically, when looking at this problem, there's both short-term, immediate kind of things that can be done to improve the situation and long-term things. Because as Janae mentioned, it's a systematic issue. So with any systematic issue, there's going to take time. You're going to have to dig away at that problem in order to make a change. But growing up in a food desert myself, I've seen, certain initiatives that were done, such as food markets. There's a different word for that. Like healthy food, produce, farmers market. That's what I was looking for. Farmers markets that you can go to, and basically they'll come for a period of time in your neighborhood and have fresh produce, fresh fruits, all the things that you need. But it's really just a period of time that they're there for, and then they go away or move to another area. Another big thing is in these communities where food deserts typically are, is a lot of the children get a majority of their meals from the school. And so one thing that we think can be done is to sponsor more healthy choices for those meals. So typically, children in these areas are getting their breakfast and lunch from their school cafeteria. And so if the school cafeteria is only offering junk options, then that's 2/3 of the meals that they're eating on a daily basis right there. And so if we can help sponsor programs, healthy food initiatives within the schools in these neighborhoods, then that is a way for us to make a difference in the 2/3 of what kids are eating on a daily basis.
Additionally, as opposed to relying on other people to feed us, we should also focus on growing our own gardens and fresh produce and being able to be sustainable in our food raising and being able to just generate our own source of food, because it's important to have that. Even agricultural knowledge is kind of rare in our community, even though it shouldn't be, because we were the original people out there farming. So I think it's important for us to know how to grow our own food and just to use nature to fill our natural bodies.
Yep. And so now you're stepping into the long term game. And so really when we look at the systemic issues of, food deserts, the main problem, I think it can be boiled down to is you have gentrification. And so you have these areas, low income neighborhoods that, don't have any options. You may have a Dollar Tree, like Janae said, or you only have fast food options around you. And then all of a sudden, when a developer comes in and they want to take advantage of the low price of the area as a potential investment, then you see all of a sudden you see gyms, LA Fitness, 24-hour fitness, whatever. You see a bunch of Whole Foods and things of this nature, but it's at a price point. The people in these areas are still at a low income level that can't afford these options. So you're basically like taunting, throw it in their face like, hey, now you have all the access to these things, but we're not really going to give you access to it because we know you can't afford it. We're going to hike up the prices to block you from being able still to have access to these things. So talking about being sustainable ourselves as a community, it's important for us to invest in our communities, block gentrification and basically offer these things, whether it be gyms, have black owned gyms, have black owned grocery stores in our communities. So where we can keep the price point where it's reasonable for the community and invest in ourselves and grow ourselves where we're not relying on anybody else from the outside world.
Yep. So when a lot of us have not grown up in a place where we have access to a lot of natural foods, and we just haven't grown up in an environment where those, habits of healthy eating were not established in our childhood. So right now we're kind of dealing with the repercussions in our health right now, which leads to another problem that a lot of Black people, anybody deal with, is that you put off your health for so long that it becomes an emergency.
Yep.
And then at that point, this leads us to our next subject, which is using Black professionals or Black healthcare professionals and the lack of them. So I feel like a lot of people don't have trust in doctors and stuff. Like even me, I prefer a Black doctor. Like
it's hard to
white people.
When you see the statistics.
Yeah, like I've even been treated bad by a white doctor. Like I just don't have that trust there. Well, I will say I've had a white doctor that was really good, but then that was my pediatric doctor, and I went and tried out my own as an adult, and I was scarred from that. So I think it's important to use Black people, because even hearing the statistics about Black women dying in childbirth or just in the hospital in general, it's very disheartening. And so I'm always on the lookout, Black dentist, Black doctor, and most of it does come by word of mouth because it's kind of hard to find Black professionals.
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up because there's actually an app. And so through the page we created on our Instagram, shameless plug, follow us on Instagram, I came across a company called Black MD Cares. And Black MD Cares is basically an app where it would allow you to not only find but connect with Black professionals, Black medical professionals in your area. So that's dentists, general practitioners, did I say dentist already?
Yep.
Okay. Gynecologists, psychologists, anything that you could think of. They have a full database of people in your area who look like you. And so I thought that was amazing because I feel like I've been asking that forever. But it's kind of been under the radar, I guess. So we would like to plug them here. Go follow them on Instagram, Twitter, and download that app on your phone so you can find people who look like you to take care of you.
Yep, that's definitely important. And just this is kind of just the next subject I think of is just recommending doctors or getting a recommendation is kind of hard. From even I was talking to my granny about her doctor the other day, and it's just I don't know. Getting recommendations, my granny waited till the last minute to go to the doctor for a lot of things. My mom, my dad, the general distrust is just there. But I think as we move into this new age, I'm being the one to recommend them to go to the doctor. And being hey, you should get that checked out. Are you all right? Are you making sure you're drinking your water, stretching, all that stuff? I think really helping people to be more secure in going to get medical help is important for us as younger people.
It's crazy because just about with everything else in terms of how we've been systematically disadvantaged, and when you typically look at other races, they have a family doctor, and like you said, like it's a struggle to find recommendations or get recommendations. Like that's something that other races don't typically have to worry about. Like they kind of have somebody that they know in the family that treats the whole family, that is at a high level for the entire family. I feel like it's only like kind of with us where you see that either your parents didn't really go to the doctor, or now you're out on your own and in a different area, a different place, and now the responsibility falls on your shoulders to find who's going to serve you in those capacities. And it's really a challenge for us because there's not a lot of us, finding us in those areas to serve us is one thing, but it's hard to get people to want to go into those fields because in general, higher education for us is harder to get into. And then that's not really a popular field for us to get to because you have the bad stigmas around it. So that kind of brings me to the next point of things that we can improve is improving the stigma around the medical profession and supporting, not only encouraging our young Black children to chase these professions, but giving them the support they need financially and mentally to be able to pursue these professions. Because it's one thing for you to say, this is a good major for you to go into a good field, but how are they going to be able to deal with being the only Black person in their class, the only Black person at their job? I know that's an adjustment that we probably both had to go through in being engineers. So yeah, giving the support that's needed to increase the number of Black professionals in the medical field.
Yep. And that support includes talking to them about it, not heckling people for wanting more. Like, I feel like growing up, I used to get made fun of for being smart or having interest in orchestra or whatever. But it kind of comes from the culture that kids are raised in. You kind of just repeat the stuff that you hear at home. And I think just making videos like this where you don't know exactly who it's going to be given access to, but just the fact that we are talking about it and people don't really talk about it that look like us is important. And just trying to share that with everybody that you come into contact. And if a little kid expresses any interest in any subject, I think it's important to kind of encourage them to expand on that knowledge and figure out if that's really what they want and learn more about it.
Absolutely.
And then just in general, sharing. I feel like a lot of people feel like they're underqualified to do things such as making YouTube videos or sharing a post,
or they feel that once they get that little bit of information, they have to hold on to it and keep it from everybody else.
Yeah. That's one way to look at it. Did you have anything else after that?
I thought you were going to keep going.
Well, I was going to say, I think people, they get scared to share their knowledge with somebody when just the fact that they have certain experiences and perspectives, somebody could relate to your experience, and the way that you reacted to it was different from the way they reacted to it, and they see your outcome and it's more favorable than their outcome. They're going to be like, oh, maybe I should look at this in a different way. Just sharing your experience. You never know who's going to touch. You never know if people are going to hate it or love it, but you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. But I think it's just important to share your interests and don't be scared of what other people think. Because if you always rely on outside, what's it called?
Influences.
Not influences, but when you want somebody to promote you or whatever.
Justification or praise.
I mean, close enough. When you rely on outside people to certify what you want to do, you're always going to be disappointed. Always believe in your own self first, because you're always going to be your number one fan.
Yep. You got to do it for you.
Yeah.
I'll do it for you. And so, kind of talking about representation in YouTube, that's another big area where um, things are difficult, where we have to make a change. And basically, the reason we're encouraging that is because the only way we're really going to change the media representation of us, that, you know, we eat unhealthy, which forces us to look at that and replicate that, is to be that change. So we try to incorporate that on this channel and basically show videos of healthy meal prep. Show video. Janae has a workout channel where she posts workouts that you can follow. And basically, we need to be the change in that area, showing more of ourselves. Like, Janae can probably give a whole dissertation on it, but just talk about the lack of representation that is out there in the media, on YouTube, for black workout, black fitness, black health when it comes to eating. And so fill that void. If you're somebody who, man, you're sharing plates and people are like, man, this is awesome, you're cooking healthy food, doing meal prep, show other people the way. Don't hold on to that information. Too often in the black community, we have this crab in the barrel mentality where we feel like, you know, because we had nothing and now we have something, we have to hold it and shield it from the world to have some upper advantage on it. But that doesn't benefit us as a community, because that's what the outside world is doing to us. So we need to take each other by the hand, take each other and carry us as a people together along the way.
Yeah. That's what I will speak to that. Like, one reason I did start my YouTube channel was because I felt that there wasn't enough representation. And fitness to me was personal, because I wish that certain people in my family, if I would have helped them with their fitness journey, they would have been here longer than they were. But and then I started making YouTube videos, and at first it was like 0 views, like 0 views. Who cares? That validation. That's the word I was looking for. That validation didn't come too much later from other people, but for me, I knew what it was for, and not only I kind of started it for myself as well as for other people. But like, the change it made for me personally is much bigger than I could have ever thought it was going to be. And I can see the impact that it has on the people around me. And just my presence, just how I look, how I talk, just being there in another person's, like, so they can see me, really does have an impact. Like, the way you take care of yourself shows in everything you do. What you eat, how you work out, like how you speak, it all comes out. And people notice it if they're paying attention. And once you take care of yourself and you're glowing from the inside, like, other people want to know how to do that as well. And you'll start to attract people with the same point of view, people who have like the same or they want the same thing for themselves. They want themselves to be healthy, because health is wealth. And you kind of just start to build your own community of health.
That's a great transition.
Wealth. Yes.
In all areas. So, I mean, talking about just building those habits that will have other people, like-minded people, gravitating towards you. The last thing we want to talk about is creating healthy patterns and healthy habits. And it's a big task. Like, I know Janae has a personal story with that, where if she feels that she would have cultivated some things, then, you know, certain family members would, you know, still be here. But it's hard, you know, from personal experience, to change mindset and change habits. And, you know, a lot of people in our community look at it as a super tall task, where they may get started doing one thing, and then, you know, the next day they're right back to the same old. And so going through it personally and going through changes ourselves, certain habits that we had to get rid of that we realized were not conducive to our health, we want to be able to teach and coach you guys how to do the same. So with anything that you want to start, you have to start small. Start with incremental steps. And don't be like people don't think it's glamorous to have small incremental successes, but those small incremental successes is what builds to the larger thing that you can post or share with the world, or that will give you true validation. Like, it starts small. Like, everything that you saw, it wasn't an overnight success. It was little by little digging away at something that they got there. So if you want to start a diet, start incorporating things in your diet. For example, vegetables. If you're somebody who just eats vegetables every now and then, start it where you increment for an entire week in one meal per day for that week, something green in your diet. And then you can go to where you do the next week 2 meals every day. And so it'll be a lot more sustainable for you to start that way, as opposed to saying, I eat crap every day and now I'm going to go to having something green or some fruit in every single meal of my day. The first day you might do it, and the next day you're going to be like, this is too hard for me to maintain.
Yep. And a tip to, stay the course when you change your habits is to write down your progress, because what isn't measured isn't managed. And measuring can just be simply, I like to make like habit trackers where I have habits that I want to do each day, and I put like a little checkbox next to it. Sometimes I get lazy with it, but it really does help me to maintain the habits. And after, I think 60 days is a safe number of days to say to build the habit, because at that point, if you haven't got it, then you probably don't need to build the habits. But yeah, just that challenge of doing it every day is important. And just like the progress that you see when you write down stuff, like each day is different from relying on your memory, because your memory isn't that reliable. Nobody told you that yet. But yeah, just remember, what isn't measured is not managed.
That's a bar. And lastly, a good thing, like writing it down is a good way to keep yourself accountable, but have an accountability partner. I know everybody may not feel like they have, but like literally you can be like calling or have somebody check on you daily and say, hey, did you do this? Hey, did you do this? And then if you didn't, you can talk about it, why. They can give you encouragement to make sure you follow through on that the next day. But it's really good to make sure that you keep the course. You have to be honest and vulnerable with that person, of course. But, on days where, because it's a constant battle, there are days, habits that I have formed where there may be a week where I don't do anything out of a habit that I formed for a year. And then I need my accountability partner to get me back on track, to give me that encouragement, say, hey, I really sucked at, making sure that I prayed every morning this week. Can you remind me to do X, Y, Z? And then, she will do that for me. Like, that is really helpful to make sure, because life is not going to be that thing where, oh, I built this habit, now it's going to be that habit forever. I'm not going to encounter any obstacles or any, resistance to it. It's constant resistance. It's constant obstacles. You built that habit and now it's going to be tested. And so accountability partners are great to help you get through that test.
Yep. And just because something is difficult doesn't mean you shouldn't do it.
Yep.
Because growth comes after being uncomfortable, after going through something difficult. Just because, if there's no pain, there's no gain. That's why I say to myself in the gym, the only way I'll see changes is if I do something I've never done before, because everything I've done before is what got me here right now.
Yep.
So in order to go somewhere I've never been before, I'm going to have to do something I've never done before. So it's okay to be uncomfortable. Change your perspective on the uncomfortableness. See the uncomfortableness as you getting closer to your goals, not as something that's in the way to stop you. It's showing you that you're doing it right.
Absolutely. And so, we don't want to go too long on this, but basically what you can expect from us as Black Vision Network is soon you will see videos of us doing our healthy meal prep. First video we got for you is some chicken fajitas, so be looking out for that. Also coming soon is we will be walking the walk, trying to provide financial and coaching support to not just people in our community who want to pursue medical professions, but anything associated with our pillars of education, healthcare, counseling, and business. We want to create a fund to help fund the change. Be on the lookout from that for us.
Yeah, guys. So that's this episode on mental health. I hope you feel like you learned something new today. You feel inspired to go help your community.
Yes.
And subscribe,
love it.
Yes, and leave a comment. I love replying to comments and what stuck out to you. I want to say something back.
Absolutely. And, feedback is the only way that we can improve. So if you're like, man, I wish they would really do this, if we're not thinking about it and you're holding on to it, you're holding that gem from us. So just give it to us.
Yeah. All right, guys. See you in the next video.
All right. Peace.
Peace.